Yes, we are live. We are live once again with the Reentry Connect podcast, the education of the law with my brother David Lusick. We always mispronounced it, but this is my good brother, man. I'm telling you, he's a legal whiz. We spend a lot of time, in the penitentiary with each other, going all the way back from knowing how to do music. He's a great guitarist and a host of other things. But one thing that really stuck out with him was him with his legal ability, understanding the law in and out, educating people throughout the prisons, educating people throughout the system in itself. I've seen him write and get a lot of people out of prison, and just so happened he allowed himself to come home and be successful to open up his own legal firm, which is called legaleagle.org. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it again. It's your host, Keenan Hudson, but we got a special gift here tonight, and that's my brother, David Lusick. Luce, if you could just go ahead and just share some of your story, introduce yourself, and let the people know what it is that you do. But just give us a little backdrop of your story and through the whole legal system and what made you got into the law.
Absolutely. Thank you for the outstanding introduction.
Yes, it did.
Me and Keenan go way back. We were fellow musicians, fellow inmates, and now we're both out here in the great city of Philadelphia, and trying to do the good deeds that need to be done out here. It's been a hard hustle and a tough struggle, I can tell you that, for reentry, coming out after doing a significant amount of time. I've looked at some of Keenan's work online, and it's also true. I did the SNAP card. I did the Philadelphia Abundance. I did the church missionary, and they were very gracious, helped me out in so many ways, clothing and food. I got out, had trouble with housing, had to do the halfway house and then a rooming house. And thankfully now I have a house, and a partner, a business partner, and a roommate and a friend, Miss Sherry Morrison. We do a lot of work here in Philadelphia. A lot of low income people need legal help. You'd be surprised. Single mothers, family custody issues, landlord tenant, a lot of that going on. People, having problems making their rent payments, going through evictions. And so we've been dibbling and dabbling with that. I've been able, through the grace of God, to make partnerships with professional attorneys, private investigators, human rights advocates. And I have an office right here in my house down on Wakeling Street, which is the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia. And it's a good location because everybody kind of knows where Bridge and Pratt is, the Frankfurt terminal. But other than that, it's not the best of sections of the city.
So let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me ask you a quick question, Dave. So when you were in prison, what made you get into the aspect of learning the law and teaching the law and studying the law? What made you get into that space?
Yeah, I mean, I was always a lover of books. I always used to like to stick my nose in a book and just escape and read and expand my mind. So it was kind of a natural path to, open the law books and see what was in there. And I can tell you this, I did not understand a word of it. When I opened my first law book, it was sign language. These lawyers that go to law school for 3 years and then have to take the bar, I pity them. I really do, because it's not easy. There's got to be easier ways to make money than becoming a lawyer. That's one of my lines. But I started reading and reading cases, and it was fascinating to read cases and stuff like that. And then guys would come to me and they needed help with their petitions or their appeals or their letters to the parole board. And I learned how to write because, with a a high school degree and I had 3 years of college. You don't know how to write like a lawyer knows how to write. There's an art form to it. You have to learn how to write. And so, I took some courses in prison. I became a paralegal through through Blackstone paralegal course. And it's just your bare bones type of paralegal course. It's nothing extraordinary. Anybody can do it. If you can come up with the $900, or it's probably more than that now, anybody can do it. And I don't know if you can see over here, I still have the certificate on the wall right there.
Oh, great. Excellent. Congratulations.
And a guy in prison actually did this for me. It was a paper certificate, and guys in prison come up with hustles to make money. And he was able to put it on cardboard and stain it with shoe polish.
Wow.
And when I brought it home, I put this frame on it. So
that's great. So let me ask you this, Dave. So when did you decide that you wanted to start a legal firm once you got home? What type of steps did you take to get to Legal Eagles?
This is the holy grail of knowledge, and I'll tell you how I did it. This is what I'm thinking about writing a book on, because it wasn't easy. The first thing I had to learn how to do was create a website. Once I got out, I kind of dibbled and dabbled with Wix and some of these online website builders. You can go on there and build your own website. And I was able to do that. And you have to advertise on Google. You have to get your name out there. I went on prison newsletters and magazines and advertised in them. And I started to get a lot of calls from guys who were in prison during COVID. And of all things, they needed help getting their stimulus checks. Because if you remember during COVID, out here, we all got stimulus checks, but in there, guys were eligible to get their stimulus checks. And the prison would give them a form or something to fill out, and they would send it in the IRS, and sometimes they would get their stimulus checks, sometimes they wouldn't. So I started going online and helping them get their stimulus checks. I started filing things for them on TurboTax, calling the IRS, and word just started spreading like, hotcakes. Once a few guys started getting their stimulus checks, my phone started ringing off the hook.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's how it all started. But the holy grail of starting your own business is a website and learning how to market yourself to a certain audience. My audience is inmates, but now it's a lot of people off of Google in the city of Philadelphia as well.
Gotcha. Wow.
And also, I'd be wrong not to put in a blurb about the new book I published. I published a book, Where to Find a Pro Bono Attorney, with a self-publisher. It's now on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Nice.
If I may, shamelessly.
Sure. Hold it up. So what do you say? What is it called? Where to Find a Pro Bono Lawyer. Yes, sir. By David Lusick.
I've gotten high remarks on this book. It's over 340 pages. It's got links, emails, phone numbers, bios to attorneys, private investigators, paralegals, websites. You can use this book 1,000 times over. It'll lead you to things online like the National Exoneration Registry, all kinds of different things. It's just a resource book. And it's available for $3.99 on PDF and Kindle, but the actual cost of the book is $99 on Amazon.
Okay, nice. So let me ask you this. So for the listeners that are listening right now, what types of law do you cover? Do you call business law, criminal law, family court? Like what type of laws do you cover within your law firm, Legal Eagle?
Yeah, we do civil and criminal, family
Mhm.
law, from landlord tenant to criminal, private investigation, a lot of that. I have a private investigator licensed 40 years, that I work with and refer cases to.
Mhm.
He solved cold case murders. He's tracked down wanted absconders. He is a top notch private investigator. Um,
Gotcha.
and I get all kinds of cases. I mean, I just had a case from Chicago, the Gorilla Man case. Angelo
Oh,
Graham. He was famous
wow.
in Chicago for entertaining in the subways in a gorilla suit. He would dance.
Mm.
He would draw big crowds. He
Yeah.
actually ran across Soldier Field during a Chicago Bears game with a shirt on that said "All Lives Matter," and he got arrested. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, so I'm helping him with a GoFundMe page.
Yeah.
It's up and live now, and we're trying to raise some money for him to help fight his case. Um,
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
and I get
Wow.
all kinds of cases. I mean, I have a case now with a local elderly woman in Philadelphia. She started a nonprofit called Habitat for Hood Cats. She goes
Okay.
around all day feeding stray cats in Germantown out of her own pocket.
Mhm.
She spends 22 pounds of cat food a day, whatever it costs for a bag of 22 pounds of cat food. And I'm trying to help her raise some money for her nonprofit too, because I'm a big cat lover. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
anybody who lives in Philadelphia knows there's a lot of stray cats.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So, in what ways does Legal Eagle continue to assist like elderly people? Like, or do you guys just strictly focus on people younger, or do you guys assist everybody?
Yeah, we assist everybody. We turn nobody away, and we have
Okay.
had quite a few of elderly um, clients. You know, they go through senior law, they go through community legal aid here in Philadelphia, and it's hit or miss. I don't want to point fingers at any of these organizations, but a lot of times,
Mhm.
you know, they can't get an appointment, they can't ever get a meeting with an attorney, and they have
Mhm.
issues.
Yeah.
We helped one elderly lady. She was, I think, 82 years old with
Yeah.
her heating bill.
Hmm.
Um, because there's programs in Philadelphia that, you know, you can get rebates on your heating, and
Yeah.
she had a real problem with the exorbitant cost of her heating, and she couldn't afford it. We were able to help her. Um, but
Gotcha.
yeah, we turn nobody away in Philadelphia. Um, we get every kind of case, and if we can't help them, we'll put them in touch with somebody that can.
Gotcha. Now I want you to expound on one thing real quick, and this is not to get off the subject, but I know that in any city of America, even in the urban cities, we know that most people are illiterate to the law. And a lot of times we'll hear that a person is time barred, and when a person does try to appeal, they always say, "Hey, ignorance is no excuse." No matter if you knew the law or not, you would have to try to hire somebody, or not unless they get your court appointed, which is a public defender who's not really too good. A lot of people go to prison, right, with literally their lives are at the mercies of strangers. We go in, we don't pay attention to the law library and things of that nature. So let me ask you, so how often, or if you could like expound on like how bad it is not to know any bit of the law at all out here on the streets, like how much of a consequence can that be if you do come in contact or in trouble with the law?
I mean, that's profound. I mean, if you have no knowledge of, you know, how to navigate the system, even out
Mhm.
here, I get a lot of people that come in and,
Mhm.
you know, they want to file a small claim suit. Maybe, you know, somebody did them wrong somehow over
Mhm.
money, or it could be a landlord tenant issue. They want to get back rent, or you know, it could be a business thing. There's a really intricate process of going down to municipal court. You have to go to a clerk. You have to fill out the paperwork. You have to present documents. And I don't want to point fingers, but a lot of the clerks down there, the first thing they'll tell you is, we can't give you legal advice.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
and behind, and the next thing that they say behind that is, you know, you're going to have to come back because you did something that you forgot to do something, like you didn't bring the right paperwork, or you didn't fill this out properly. And so somebody who takes a day off of work to go all the way down to municipal court and to meet with the clerk and get faced with this kind of resistance, it's discouraging. It's very discouraging. And and municipal court is called the People's Court in Philadelphia. So technically, the idea is you can go down there without a lawyer, file your case, and you'll get a hearing. And if it's under $10,000, you can win your case without a lawyer. But they make things so difficult. And it's the same with all the courts in Philadelphia, family court, and even CJC, the Criminal Justice Center. Ignorance of the law is a big disadvantage in this country.
And and I find it very profound that usually they try to apply that to juveniles as well. I remember back in the day, when I was a juvenile and coming through the system, we're kids. So, but even though they certify as an adult, certify all of us as adults, they don't care whether you know the law or not. Usually 9 times out of 10, the juveniles that's coming through, families are not usually able to afford an attorney. Fortunately, my family was able to afford one, but at the same time, there was a lot of people that just didn't care. A lot of kids that just didn't care, which I don't believe is right, because if a child, a juvenile under the age of 18 can barely rationalize, they can barely think, they can barely make decisions for themselves, let alone piss in the toilet correctly. So my thing is, but here they are charging kids. They charge kids as adults, which is, however, whatever the consequences they have to, go through, I totally understand. But at the same time, if you're going to charge them as adults, and not be mindful that they're still kids, it's like, what kind of system are we dealing with here?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let me jump in for a minute, because you've actually touched on a hot button topic right now in Philadelphia. Your listeners probably aren't aware of this, but a lot of guys who are incarcerated are aware of it, and it's been in the news very, very briefly. But the Philadelphia Homicide Unit and the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office is under a lot of scrutiny for the way they've interrogated juveniles in the past 10 or 15 years on homicide cases and other cases where there was not a parent present. And there was some tactics of coercion and other things that have now come to light. Wrongful conviction attorney Terry Heinball recently just overturned 2 convictions for guys serving life sentences. And she's working on another one who also was a juvenile at the time. But these tactics were used. And it has a historical basis in Philadelphia that, the homicide detective unit wants to close out these cases, and they use any means necessary. And now there's policy. It's not being fully enforced, but there's policy now that all homicide interviews have to be videotaped. And that was never the case before, because what would happen is a detective would say, here's your statement, go ahead and sign this. And the juvenile, whoever would sign it. But the questions and stuff wouldn't match what was said in the interview. It was kind of like a blank form, and then they went back and just filled in the dots. Stuff like that went on. holding a juvenile in an interview room for 2 days, without a bed, without and heat,
Chained to the table.
chained
Yeah,
to the table, and
absolutely.
trying to elicit confessions.
Hmm.
This is a hot button issue right now going on in Philadelphia, and
Hmm.
Larry Krasner, God bless his soul, I've met him in person. Um,
Hmm.
he's opening up the files for guys who have been in prison
Yes.
20, 30 years now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're able to go back and look into the homicide files, which what
Hmm.
they're called the H files, which were never before available to defendants. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so this is a very hot button issue.
Yeah, and
To
that's
your point,
actually a good thing that Larry Krasner, like you said, he's opening these files because you have a lot of innocent people that are in prison. That's why I implore anybody that's listening right now, even if it's juveniles, anybody tell them to study the law. Tell them to get into the law, even if it's reading law for dummies, law, the basics, law for idiot guide. These are some good books to get into because you never know when you'll come encounter with the law because it could be a simple traffic stop. Do you know your rights? Do you know that they can't search your car without a warrant? Do you know that they can't search your car with probable cause? If you got a bunch of smoke in your car and they think that there's some drugs in there, there's a possibility that they can search your car. So there's certain things that some people that they just don't take heed to and can really care less about. But at the end of the day, if you do want to afford an attorney, a lot of times, and this is going to lead to my next question, but a lot of times you're going to have to pay a lot of money to get to an attorney. So, David Lusick, if you can tell us what are some of the price ranges or the fees, if you're allowed to share this with the broadcast, um, for people to see you, consultate, how much does it take for you to take on a case and things to that nature? Could you share upon that, please?
yeah. Our fees are a fraction of what a law firm would ever charge. A lot of times we do pro bono stuff. We'll just have people come in, and if we can't help them, there's no charge whatsoever. And a
Mhm.
lot of what I do is connect people with other attorneys and private investigators and stuff like that. So I have some partnerships with some attorneys that they know what I do, and so it's a deep discount. Um,
Mhm.
you know, never more than 500 or $1,000 for most of the stuff that we do. The most I think is 2,000, and that's if it's some type of complex issue.
Mhm.
That requires research and briefs and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
generally nothing more than 500 or $1,000. um, and like I
Mhm.
said, I have a good network of people that
Mhm.
can offer these deep discounts to people.
Gotcha. So now, if people were to, take this service, do you have payment plans, or do people have to pay up front? What type of things?
Normally,
Is that?
it's up a retainer agreement is provided. It'll be signed by the attorney or the private investigator or whoever, and then payment will be made before the services are provided. That's par for the course. There are
Mhm.
cases where payment plans are made. A retainer could be put down and then a payment plan every 30 days or something like that. But because it's under $1,000, we try to accommodate everybody, but at the same time, we have to stay in business and keep the lights on.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I understand. But so let me ask you this. So with you coming up in the game, still being a little small fry, but growing, do you get a lot of backlash from a lot of uh bigger like counterparts or people that's in the same field as you? Do they give you a lot of backlash, give you a hard time because of the things that you're doing?
Um, for the most part, we are a small fry. I
Hmm.
mean, listen, I'm not in this to be a millionaire, and I break even a lot of times. If
Hmm.
I have business expenses, I got to pay for phone lines, I got to pay for the computers, I got to pay for the printers. sometimes at the end of the month I break even. I don't make
Mhm.
any money. Um,
Mhm.
so we're small fries, and we're trying to make a name for ourselves here in Philadelphia, and we've had some pushback from some other entities. Um,
Yeah.
even the Human Rights Coalition in Philadelphia, we had an issue with because they didn't like the fact that we were even charging small fees to help people. This
Right.
goes all the way back to COVID when we were helping people get their stimulus checks for $1,800 and we were charging $50.
Wow.
The Rights Coalition didn't like that. They put out a
Mm.
disclaimer inside the prisons that they didn't want to have anything to do with legal-eagles.org. And
Oh wow.
yeah. And so I got a lot of calls from people saying, we heard from HRC that, you're this and you're that. And here I am getting guys their stimulus checks. They're thanking me to the moon that they
Yeah, yeah,
finally got
yeah.
their money. And then
Mhm.
there's this disclaimer out there. Other people are reading saying, oh, you're fictitious and you're a scam and you're taking people's money. And
Wow.
yeah, so we have had some
Yeah, yeah,
pushback.
yeah. Wow. Okay, so let me ask you one of the final questions. What are some of your future goals with Legal Eagle? What do you plan on seeing yourself with the company?
Um, I would like to turn it into a full-time, legitimate um, entity, maybe even nonprofit in
Okay.
some kind of way. I know there's a lot of hoops you have to go through to become a nonprofit, but then you
Mhm.
can you can do fundraising and stuff like that, and you can do bigger things.
Mhm.
Um, possibly branch into a nonprofit, um, and then maybe combine with some of the partners that I'm working with. I work with, like I said, a private investigator who's
Mhm.
had his own business, Goldstone Investigations, for 30 years. And there's been
Yeah.
some talk about joining forces with him,
Mhm.
and seeing if we can branch out that way. And he has a big following behind the walls too. His name is Jeffrey Goldstein, and he owns
Okay.
Goldstone Investigations.
Cool, cool. Okay.
He's doing a lot of good work for people, man.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So, if you could encourage individuals right now that are watching from a prison cell, that are watching from their cell phones at a halfway house transitional, um, what would you do or what would you say to encourage them in general, whether it be dealing with the law or successful reentry? What type of things or encouragement could you give them right now?
I would tell him this: just keep doing the next right thing,
Mm,
because you know things start to fall in place if
yeah.
you're going down a path and you're
Mhm,
trying to do the next right thing. You're not trying to shortchange people. You're not trying to get over on people. You're not trying to
mhm,
do the same old hustles and the same old mentality that you're used to.
mhm,
Things will start falling into place for you. You'll start to
mhm,
see little windows of opportunity. The so-called dominoes will start falling in your favor. And it make no mistake, it is not easy. It's hard hustle out here.
mm,
It's hard finding a job when you have a past.
mhm.
It's hard finding a job that's going to provide you enough money to pay your bills. It's hard to find housing
Yeah.
when you have no credit
Mhm.
coming out of
Mm,
prison. Um,
mhm.
it's hard hustle, and you have to just keep doing the next right thing, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And here you go. You got Ms. Dolores Powell. She said, important information. Thank you. So she's saying, thank you for sharing. If you can see that on the screen here, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the listeners tuning in. I'm telling you, like, this is a huge deal here. When you're dealing with the legal system. The legal system can expand in so many different ways. As you mentioned, it could be criminal, it could be civil, it could be business law, it could be so many different ways, in which you can learn the law. So a lot of the young, especially a lot of young people, I'm telling you now, I'm not telling you go study a bunch of law books, but you need the second chance and second think, when you go out in them streets and you commit these crimes, because they're going to stack the book on you. They're gonna stack charges up on you. You're gonna say, how they stack all these charges up on me? And due to your lack of knowledge, those charges are gonna stick with you. And then all of a sudden you're gonna be relying on a stranger to see if they can get some of those charges dropped. So, and then before you know it, when you do go upstate, you spend the time upstate. Oh, they gave me this, or they gave me 48, or they gave me a 6-10, or a 7-15, and all this, and you don't even know why they sent you to prison due to your lack of knowledge. But one thing I will say that some of the toughest legal beasts that are in prison, majority of them are lifers or long-term offenders, people that has 30 to 60 or, a couple life sentences, because they have to fight to try to get out of prison. And some of them are innocent. And it's a good thing Mr. Lusick brought up that they're getting a lot of hassle about people that are in prison, and they're opening up the H files because there are a lot of innocent people, and I kudos to Larry Krasner, because Larry Krasner has been doing right by viewing these people cases that, a lot of people try to push to the curve. These guys, been trying to have a voice, but however, being locked in the prison or locked in the hole, you don't pretty much have too much of a voice because your reach is only but so far. When your mail is getting tampered with, when they're destroying your legal work in a hole, not giving you access to any type of legal assistance from the outside. These type of things, it goes a long way inside, but we're glad that they're shaking the legal system up a little bit, giving, some relief, to a lot of families as well. But at the same time, again, should we pay the consequences for our actions? Absolutely. Should we, learn to obey the law in the right way? Absolutely. But let it coincide to all parts of the law. Don't allow it to just apply to criminal law to whereas they just want to confine people, for the betterment of funds and financing, because it costs money to prison people. So without further ado, I know that we're taking up a lot of time tonight, but it's all good. But brother Dave, if you can go ahead and give out any shout outs, shoot your book out there again, let everybody see it, tell them where they can go to get it, and also how can they contact you. Start off with the book.
Yeah, the book is available on writersrepublic.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the major players, as well as my website. And you can reach us at legal-eagles.org. You got to have that dash in there because there's other legal eagles out there that aren't us. And I want to give a special shout out to goldstoneinvestigations.com and Jeffrey Goldstein, doing a lot of good work for the guys behind the wall, trying to get them back into court, open up their cases, get witness statements, H files, the whole thing. Our business line is 267-946-2322. You can call us Monday through Friday. Our phone rings off the hook. It's like a switchboard. We have 2 lines. If we don't get you, you'll get a voicemail and you'll get a call back.
Cool. Well, without further ado, thank you so much, David Lusick, for coming on. And I know you didn't share about your I know you didn't say about your guitar experience. We're going to have to come on another podcast to speak about that, because this man, he saw me when I didn't even know how to play piano. But then he also showed me how I came up, took over the Spanish choir, was in the front. But that's another story.
Yeah.
But so they're asking, can you put the name of the book in the comments, which is cool. So what you could do, Dave, after we finish the live and everything, you can go back. I'll drop it in the comments as well. The name of it. You said, what was the name of the title of the book one more time?
Yeah, it's Where to Find a Pro Bono Lawyer by David G. Lusick. I'm not good with the chat.
Right. I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, don't you held it up there? We can see it long enough. We got another right here by Mr. Bayak. He said, tell about the life we made it out and fighting for the loved ones still behind the walls. H files like X files. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be saying, yeah, be sharing it. Be sharing it because it's a lot of brothers and sisters, you know, that are locked behind those bars and they're fighting for their lives to get out. You know, it's crazy because, you know, when you walk the track with a lot of people, you see how much you see how much, you know, people deserve a second chance. Just the same way we have a second chance. You know, we was granted that second chance, but then there's some people that still fighting for their dear life to come out again. So it's a lot to be grateful for. It's a lot, you know, especially with having freedom, being able to breathe, being able to have variety and options to pick from out here. You know, is a blessing in itself. But again, it's your host, Keenan Hudson. Here we are in the Reentry Connect podcast, you know, the education of law with David Lusick. Again, y'all can reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn as well. Again, Legal Eagles, illegal-eagles.org. But I'm quite sure if you Google him, it'll be great. She said, where to find pro bono lawyer there by David Lusick. Yep, that's where it's at.
Thank you,
got it correctly on there. Thank you for it. Yeah, he's thank you for your support. So without further ado, y'all, I'll talk to y'all later. We'll be on tomorrow, 6:00. Be there. Guaranteed it's going to be great. Don't forget, it's a special guest coming on Thursday night as well at 7:00. But then we got to follow up at 8:00 with the group. So again, without further ado, thanks, Dave. We appreciate everybody. Everybody else have a wonderful night.
Blessings.
And we'll go from there. All right.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.